Emma sat alone in her dimly lit bedroom, the glow of her phone screen painting pale light across her anxious face. Her heart pounded as her thumb scrolled through the endless Reddit feed until her eyes froze on a chilling line. She whispered, "This can't be real," as her breath quickened. The words blurred before her. "I know what happened to your sister." Emma's chest tightened, and her hands trembled so violently that she nearly dropped the phone. Memories slammed into her mind like shards of broken glass. Her sister's laughter, the locked bedroom door, and the voicemail she never had the courage to play. The room spun as a ringing filled her ears, drowning out the silence of the night. Emma gasped and pressed the phone tighter to her face, eyes wide with disbelief, horror, and a desperate need to understand. She whispered again, this time in a voice choked with fear, "Who wrote this?" Emma jolted upright. The sheets tangled around her legs as if trying to hold her back. She whispered, "This has to be a joke," but her voice cracked with disbelief. She scrolled again, searching for context for reassurance, yet none came. The username was anonymous, the thread obscure, but the words were carved into her mind. Her chest rose and fell in sharp gasps, her skin prickled with sweat. She clenched her jaw as tears threatened to rise, her sister's face flashing in fragments she had buried years ago. "Why now? Why here?" Emma muttered, almost pleading with the screen. The clock ticked past midnight, but she could not look away. The silence of her room pressed against her ears, and for the first time in years she felt utterly unsafe. Emma pressed the back of her hand to her lips, forcing herself not to cry. She whispered, "What do they know?" The glow of the phone outlined her silhouette, casting shadows that stretched like claws along the wall. She scrolled to the comments section, hoping to find someone mocking the original post, but instead there was silence. No replies, no upvotes, nothing but that lone sentence staring back at her. Emma's pulse raced, and the quiet became unbearable. She felt the need to call someone, anyone, but who could she trust? The memory of Daniel flickered in her mind, his smile too rehearsed, his words too perfect. She shook her head, refusing to let his name surface tonight. Emma tossed the phone onto the bed, as if breaking its hold could steady her heart. She whispered, "This is insane," but the silence that followed only deepened her unease. Her hands dug into her hair as she leaned forward, elbows on her knees, trembling. The memory of the voicemail gnawed at her, that unopened message sitting untouched for years, a reminder of her failure to listen when her sister needed her most. "I should have opened it," Emma muttered through gritted teeth. Her breath hitched as she forced herself to pick the phone up again, scrolling back to that cursed line, the one that had shattered her fragile calm. The phone buzzed suddenly with a new notification, and Emma flinched so hard she nearly dropped it. She whispered, "No, not now," as her eyes darted to the glowing screen. But it wasn't a reply to the Reddit post. It was an email alert. Relief washed over her for a fleeting second before giving way to dread, because the subject line read, "You can't ignore this forever." Emma's throat closed, and her fingers froze above the glass. She forced herself to breathe, whispering, "Who are you?" But no answer came. The night felt colder, the walls closer, as if the entire house was listening. Emma sat at her kitchen table the following morning, her eyes heavy from sleeplessness. She stirred her coffee absently, staring into the dark liquid as if it might give her answers. The glow of her laptop reflected on her tired face, the Reddit post still open, mocking her with silence. She muttered, "Why can't I stop looking at this?" Her phone buzzed on the table, and she flinched before picking it up. Sarah's name lit the screen, her best friend checking in as usual. Emma hesitated before answering, her voice low. "Hey, I'm fine," she lied. Sarah's cheerful voice contrasted sharply, but Emma's mind was elsewhere, replaying that line over and over. She pressed her lips together, deciding she could not tell Sarah yet. Sarah arrived unannounced, letting herself into the apartment with her spare key. Emma's shoulders stiffened as she looked up from her laptop. Sarah, a 26-year-old woman with blonde hair tied in a messy bun, set a grocery bag on the counter with a smile. "You look like hell," Sarah said, half joking. Emma forced a laugh, muttering, "Didn't sleep much." Sarah studied her with concern, tilting her head as she asked, "This about Daniel again?" Emma's lips pressed into a thin line, her silence saying more than words. Sarah sighed, pulling out fruit and bread, trying to lighten the mood. "You can't keep letting ghosts control you." Emma's jaw tightened, but she whispered, "What if the ghosts are real?" Emma pushed the laptop shut, the sharp clap echoing louder than intended. Sarah flinched slightly, then leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Talk to me," Sarah urged. Emma rubbed her temples, her voice trembling. "I saw something last night, and I can't shake it." Sarah frowned, moving closer. "What did you see?" Emma hesitated, words sticking in her throat. She wanted to scream about the Reddit post, about the email, about her sister, but fear locked her tongue. Instead, she whispered, "Just memories I thought I buried." Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder, her touch gentle. "Then maybe it's time to stop burying them," Sarah said softly. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't answer. The silence stretched between them until Emma finally whispered, "Do you remember my sister's voicemail?" Sarah's brow furrowed, her lips pressing tightly before she nodded. "You never listened," Sarah said. Emma looked down at her hands, ashamed. "I couldn't," she muttered. The weight of guilt pressed against her chest, almost suffocating. Sarah's voice softened. "Maybe you should now." Emma shook her head quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. "What if I hear something I can't handle?" Sarah sighed, brushing her hair back. "Emma, you're already handling something worse, your imagination." Emma's eyes darted toward her phone on the table, the email notification still visible. "It's not just imagination," she whispered. Sarah reached for Emma's phone, but Emma grabbed it quickly, holding it tight to her chest. "Don't," Emma snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. Sarah froze, her brows knitting with hurt. "I'm just trying to help," she said quietly. Emma's breath came in shallow bursts, her pulse pounding. She whispered, "Someone knows something, and they're watching me." Sarah tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean watching you?" Emma's voice broke as she admitted, "I got a message. They said I can't ignore this forever." Sarah stared, disbelief flickering across her face. "Emma, maybe it's a sick prank," she suggested. Emma shook her head, gripping the phone harder. "No, it feels real." Emma sat in her car outside Daniel's office, hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. She told herself she wasn't here to confront him, but her mind screamed otherwise. The building loomed tall, glass reflecting the late afternoon sky, sterile and unwelcoming. She whispered, "Why did your name appear in that thread?" Her pulse quickened as she spotted him through the lobby window, charming smile plastered across his face as he shook hands with a colleague. For a moment, she remembered why she once trusted him, why his charisma blinded her. Then the chill returned, sharp and unrelenting. She muttered, "You always had secrets, didn't you?" Her reflection in the glass stared back, more fragile than she wanted to admit. Daniel stepped outside moments later, his tailored suit crisp, his confident stride magnetic. Emma's chest tightened as memories flooded in, his warm laugh, his gentle words, all now tainted by suspicion. He spotted her car, and his smile shifted slightly, calculating rather than welcoming. Emma forced herself to step out, her voice steadier than she felt. "We need to talk," she said, her eyes locking on his. Daniel's brow lifted in mock surprise. "Emma, it's been a while," he replied smoothly. His tone carried the same charm that once disarmed her, but now it felt like poison. Emma's stomach churned, but she refused to back down. "Tell me why your name's tied to my sister." Daniel's smile faltered, but only for a heartbeat. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Emma, you really shouldn't believe everything you read online." His voice dripped with casual dismissal, yet his eyes held a flicker of unease. Emma folded her arms, her voice trembling, but fierce. It wasn't just a post, it was specific. They knew about her. Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper. "People will say anything to get attention. Don't let them control you. Emma's throat tightened, the heat of his proximity bringing back old memories she wished she could erase. But she didn't flinch this time. She stared back, unblinking. You're lying, Daniel? Daniel's smirk hardened into something colder. Careful, Emma, he said, his voice silk over steel. She felt her stomach twist, but forced her chin higher. What are you hiding? She demanded, her voice breaking slightly at the edges. Daniel's gaze swept over her, like he was calculating his next move. Then, with infuriating calm, he muttered, You always did have a wild imagination. Emma's fists clenched at her sides, nails biting into her palms. Her mind screamed to walk away, but her heart refused. She whispered, If you had nothing to do with it, why are you so afraid of me asking? Daniel's smile returned, but this time it felt colder than winter. Emma turned away abruptly, her breath ragged as she forced herself back toward her car. Daniel's voice followed her, calm but chilling. You're chasing ghosts, Emma. You'll only hurt yourself. She froze, his words slicing deep, but refused to let him see her crumble. Sliding into the driver's seat, she gripped the wheel, whispering, No, I'll find the truth. Through the windshield, she saw Daniel watching, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable but dangerous. For the first time, Emma realized this wasn't paranoia. It was survival. She started the engine, her reflection in the rearview mirror, pale but determined. The war for truth had begun. Emma sat hunched at her desk, blinds drawn, the glow of her laptop illuminating her tired features. She scrolled through hidden Reddit threads, each post a puzzle piece she couldn't ignore. Her breath hitched as she discovered multiple usernames linking to Daniel. One thread mentioned Richard Hale, a powerful attorney with influence across the city. Emma muttered, Why would Richard's name appear here? Her stomach churned as memories of her sister resurfaced, whispers about people in power, warnings ignored. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her eyes, whispering, This isn't just about Daniel, it's bigger. The sound of the fridge humming was the only reminder that she wasn't drowning in complete silence. Her phone buzzed with another anonymous message, Stop digging or you'll regret it. Emma's hands shook as she read it aloud. They're watching me, she whispered. Panic shot through her chest, but curiosity anchored her still. She grabbed a notepad, scribbling connections between names. Daniel, Richard Hale, anonymous users. Her handwriting was jagged, frantic. She muttered, There's a pattern here. I just have to see it. The room felt colder, the shadows pressing in as her eyes darted toward the darkened window. For a second, she swore she saw movement outside, a fleeting figure swallowed by the night. Her pulse raced, but she forced herself to stay put, whispering, I won't stop. The following evening, Sarah sat across from Emma in a small cafe, her voice low. You've been spiraling, Sarah said, her blonde hair pulled into a loose ponytail. Emma's eyes darted around, paranoia evident. She whispered, Sarah. Richard Hale's name came up. My sister. She mentioned him once. Sarah froze, her face stiffening before she quickly masked it with concern. Emma, you can't just throw his name around. He's dangerous. Emma leaned closer, her tone urgent. Then you know something. Sarah shook her head too quickly, her hands tightening around her cup. Emma's heart sank as doubt gnawed. Was Sarah hiding something? That night, Emma sat back at her desk when a direct message popped up from a new anonymous account. I can help you, but it comes with a cost. Her breath quickened as she typed back. Who are you? The reply came instantly. Someone who knows the truth about Daniel and Richard. Emma's hands trembled as she whispered, Why should I trust you? The answer sent a chill racing down her spine. Because I was there the night your sister disappeared. Emma slammed her laptop shut, her chest heaving. Her instincts screamed. It was a trap, yet her curiosity was stronger. She whispered, If they were there, they know everything. Emma paced her apartment, her phone clutched tight as she reread the messages. Her reflection in the window stared back, pale and fearful. If this person knows the truth, I need them, she muttered. She typed a hesitant reply. What do you want? The answer arrived almost instantly. Meet me tomorrow. No one else can know. Emma's knees weakened, and she sank onto the couch whispering, "This could destroy me." Her pulse thundered in her ears, but beneath the fear was determination. She whispered again, stronger this time, "But it could also save me." Outside, the city lights flickered as though the world itself was warning her. Emma waited nervously at a dimly lit park bench, the cold night air cutting through her coat. Her phone buzzed with a new message. "I see you." She scanned the shadows, her pulse racing. Then Sarah appeared, approaching from the far side of the park, her blonde hair catching faint light from a nearby lamp. Emma exhaled in relief and confusion. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" Sarah forced a smile, but her eyes betrayed unease. "I could ask you the same," she said softly. Emma's heart sank as realization flickered. The anonymous informant hadn't shown up, Sarah had. Emma stood abruptly, her eyes wide. "It was you," she whispered, voice trembling. Sarah's face softened with guilt, yet her stance was firm. "I didn't want to hurt you," Sarah said, her words quiet but sharp. Emma's throat tightened. "You betrayed me," she muttered, each syllable heavy. Sarah stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Emma, you don't understand. Richard, he's dangerous. If you keep digging, he'll come for you." Emma's chest burned with anger and fear. "You knew all along," she said, tears brimming. Sarah's eyes flicked downward, avoiding her gaze. "I did what I had to protect my family." Emma's voice broke as she hissed, "Protecting your family meant sacrificing mine?" Sarah flinched but held her ground. "I warned you to stop digging, Emma. You didn't listen." The betrayal cut deeper than Emma imagined, the friend she trusted most standing against her. Emma shook her head, backing away. "You were supposed to help me." Sarah's eyes welled, but her jaw tightened. "I thought I was helping. If you keep going, you'll end up like her." The words slammed into Emma, cold and brutal. She whispered, "You know what happened to my sister." Sarah's silence confirmed everything. Emma's breath came fast, her body trembling as she whispered, "Tell me what you know." Sarah's eyes darted nervously to the dark trees, as if expecting someone to emerge. She finally said, "Daniel wasn't acting alone. Richard controls everything. I saw things I can't unsee." Emma's fists clenched. "And you stayed silent?" Sarah's tears spilled over, her voice breaking. "If I spoke, my family would be destroyed." Emma shook her head furiously. "You chose them over justice." Sarah whispered, "I chose survival." The word echoed between them, colder than the night itself. Emma stepped back into the shadows, her voice hollow but fierce. "I don't know if I can forgive you." Sarah's face crumpled, guilt weighing heavy, but she didn't move closer. "Please stop before it's too late," Sarah begged. Emma shook her head, whispering, "It's already too late." She turned, walking swiftly toward the parking lot, her hands shaking, but her resolve hardening. Behind her, Sarah stood frozen, her figure fading into the mist. Emma muttered under her breath, "If Richard thinks I'll stay silent, he's wrong." The betrayal burned, but it fueled her determination to face the truth, no matter the cost. Emma sat in her car outside Richard Hale's estate, hands trembling on the steering wheel. The mansion loomed beyond iron gates, glowing faintly under the moonlight. She whispered, "This is it," as fear and determination wrestled inside her. Her phone buzzed with another message, "He's inside. Don't hesitate." She swallowed hard, gripping the flash drive in her pocket that contained everything she had uncovered. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she muttered, "If I don't end this now, I'll never be free." The night air was heavy, suffocating, but she forced herself out of the car, each step heavier than the last as she approached the gate. Inside the estate's grand hall, Daniel waited, his sharp suit immaculate, his expression unreadable. Richard Hale, a 52-year-old man with graying hair and piercing eyes, stood beside him, exuding authority. Emma's breath caught as Richard smirked. "You've been busy digging in places you don't belong." Emma's fists tightened at her sides. "You destroyed my sister's life," she said, her voice cracking but defiant. Daniel stepped forward smoothly, his tone dripping with mockery. Always so dramatic, Emma. She glared at him, whispering, "You hid behind charm while people disappeared." Richard chuckled, cold and calculated. "Curiosity is dangerous. It can bury you." Emma stepped forward, her voice rising with fury. "You think power will protect you, but I have proof." She pulled the flash drive from her pocket, holding it up like a weapon. Daniel's jaw tightened, his charm slipping into rage. "You don't know what you're playing with," he hissed. Richard's eyes narrowed, his calm demeanor cracking slightly. "And who will believe you, Emma? You're just a scared little girl chasing ghosts." Emma's throat burned with anger, but she refused to break. "Maybe I am scared," she said fiercely, "but the truth is louder than your lies." Daniel lunged forward suddenly, trying to snatch the flash drive. Emma stumbled back, clutching it to her chest. "Stay away from me," she cried. Richard raised a hand, his voice sharp. "Daniel." His command froze the room, but the tension thickened. Emma's chest heaved, her knuckles white around the drive. "You can't silence me," she shouted, her voice echoing against marble walls. Richard's eyes darkened. "If you walk out that door, Emma, you will regret it." Her pulse thundered as she whispered, "I already regret not fighting sooner." The weight of years of silence turned into unshakable resolve. Emma's body shook, but her voice was steady. "This ends tonight." She backed toward the doorway, her eyes locked on Richard's. Daniel's fists clenched, his jaw set in fury, but he didn't move without Richard's command. Richard's lips curled into a cold smile. "Go ahead, expose us. But remember, truth makes enemies, not allies." Emma swallowed her fear, whispering, "Then let them come." She turned swiftly, pushing open the heavy doors, the cold night air rushing in like freedom itself. Her heart raced, but for the first time, she felt unchained. She muttered for her, "I'll finish this." Emma sat in her apartment, blinds half closed, the soft glow of her laptop illuminating her determined face. The flash drive was connected, files open, every damning document laid bare. She whispered, no more hiding, as her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She uploaded everything anonymously to a forum, her hands trembling but steady in purpose. The progress bar crawled forward, each percentage a weight lifted. "This will end them," she muttered, her voice laced with exhaustion and resolve. Her chest rose and fell sharply as she pressed the final key, releasing the truth into the world. For the first time in years, she felt her sister close, almost as if watching over her. Morning news headlines flashed across Emma's television screen. Attorney Richard Hale under investigation for corruption. She stood frozen, remote in hand, as reporters detailed leaked evidence implicating both him and Daniel. Her heart pounded as relief and dread collided. "It worked," she whispered, almost disbelieving. But beneath the triumph, unease lingered. Justice had begun, yet she knew these men had allies, shadows ready to strike back. Emma's reflection on the blank part of the screen looked older, heavier, as though the price of truth had carved itself into her features. She exhaled deeply, whispering, "This is just the beginning." Emma sat alone in a quiet diner, a cup of coffee untouched before her. The bell above the door rang, and Mark, a 30-year-old man with rugged features, slid into the booth across from her. His voice was low. "You did it." Emma studied him, suspicion lingering. "Why help me if you knew so much?" Mark shrugged, his eyes dark. "Because some of us are tired of their lies." Emma leaned closer, whispering, "You're not telling me everything." Mark smirked faintly, sliding a folded note across the table. "Read this when you're alone." Emma's pulse quickened, her trust stretched thinner than ever. Back in her apartment, Emma unfolded the note with shaking hands. The words made her blood run cold. This isn't over. Richard was only the beginning. Her breath caught as she dropped the paper onto the table. "There's more," she whispered, her chest tightening. Fear clashed with determination, the realization sinking in that the web of corruption stretched far deeper. She pressed her hand against her forehead, whispering, "I started something I can't stop." Outside, distant sirens wailed, their sound sharp against the stillness of the room. For Emma, peace was already gone, replaced by a fire that couldn't be extinguished. That night, Emma sat on her bed, phone in hand, scrolling to delete her Reddit account. The screen asked, "Are you sure?" She hesitated, her reflection in the glass pale and weary. With a deep breath she whispered, "Some secrets should never stay buried." Her finger pressed confirm, the account vanishing into digital oblivion. She set the phone down, staring into the darkness. Outside, the city hummed with distant noise, indifferent to her wall. Her eyes closed slowly, exhaustion pulling at her, but her lips curled into a faint, defiant smile. The fight wasn't over. It had only changed shape.